be a president for all South Africans.
All right, and as we said, of course, that's our top story today. All eyes now, Tabiso, on the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, as he will announce his much-anticipated cabinet.
Now, is expected to reveal a smaller and leaner cabinet that will ensure that certain ministries will deliver on their mandates.
As South Africa turns a new tide, the first priority for President Cyril Ramaphosa will be to turn the country's economy around. He will need competent members of cabinet who are equal to the task. Cabinet is expected to be reduced from 35 to 25 departments.
We have a bloated executive, and by executive I mean the cabinet, the deputy ministers. We do have top bureaucracy, which is very expensive. What needs to, as you say, you are going to trim down, you need qualitative change also, not just qualitative change. You are doing it so that there's qualitative change delivery of what they're supposed to deliver. And I don't just say deliver, but the work they're supposed to do, because together the taxpayer pays, the government uses the money of the taxpayer to be able to make the economy function.
In ensuring that the economic cluster is efficient, one analyst says various departments that focus on the economy should be merged.
What we need to strengthen is the economic cluster. But I see areas that relate to communication being merged, postal services, communications. I see a possibility of merging them and have one ministry. I'm also aware that there's a possibility of a fear, especially amongst those employed in different state departments. I don't see retrenchments in government.
The spotlight was on Deputy President David Mabuza this week and his fate. This after he asked for postponement to be sworn in, saying he wanted to address the ANC's Integrity Commission on allegations leveled against him.
There is no guarantee that the deputy of the ANC is supposed to be the deputy of the Republic. But Deputy President Mabuza has issues with the Integrity Commission of the ANC. And I think it was wise for him to finalize the issues with the Integrity Commission. The ANC Women's League has been very vocal to say that we need a female to occupy positions in the hierarchy of government. If indeed we don't see Didi Mabuza becoming the Deputy President of the Republic, I see President Ramaphosa appointing a female in the interest of unity, in the interest of the Polokwane resolution of 50-50.
I think there's going to be a lot of difficulties for the president if David Mabuza moves and begins to work more at Lutuli House. You have Ash Mangashule, Lutuli House.
Natasha Piri, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, continue the conversation. We joined from our Pretoria studios, Professor Somadoda Fikeni in Pretoria. Somadoda, Prof, welcome to SABC News Channel. Thank you indeed for joining us. We've heard some of the analysts, they've spoken. It is going to be a headache for the president. The next 24 hours will be telling, as he has to announce the cabinet, what we're hearing now as of Monday.
Certainly, I do think that this is the time when the president now has to make decisions, and tough decisions of reducing, streamlining the cabinet, at the same time trying to make sure that he balances all the sectional interest and yet have a capable cabinet. That in itself is going to be very difficult to do.
We've just heard now that the question the withdrawal, rather, of the Deputy President David Mabuza last Friday set the cat amongst the pigeons, so to speak. We heard the EFF leader earlier today saying if the President does not include him in his cabinet, they'll be held to pay, so to speak, because those factions are going to come out and give him sleepless nights.
Well, I do think that the issue of the Deputy President is the one that the country is focusing on, more so on the question of David Mabuza, who traditionally ANC Deputy Presidents have been Deputy Presidents of the country, but that has not always been the case. There have been cases, exceptional as they might be, where they have put in, for example, Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka was not the Deputy President, and when Baleka Mbete was made Deputy President, she was not the Deputy President of the party. So to that extent, I would say, let us be open to possibilities of a negotiated arrangement behind the scenes as to what ANC may want in order to have unity and stability, more so where you straddle between those who might have supported Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma and those who have supported Cyril Ramaphosa, because more than any other time, ANC needs stability in order to revive itself.
Which is what, the going call so far, the past couple of days. In fact, the President Cyril Ramaphosa speaks about Tumamina unity and paying it forward, so to speak. Do you think that if he doesn't go, for example, for a faction, and if I can put it that way, of the Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, as you have just mentioned, will the acceptance of anyone else be palatable in as far as the ANC is concerned, or is damned if he does, is damned if he doesn't, so to speak?
I do think that each one of the choices has its own challenges, because some of those who believe that they had worked hard to bring Ramaphosa and may not be trusting of the other candidate may have issues. But at the same time, if you take David Mabuza on, they had issues that there are issues that keep coming in the media or in the public space about his conduct and some of his dealings in Mpumalanga. So whatever choice he takes, if he takes Naledi Pandor, it will be said that this was originally part of his slate. So there is nothing that he can do that will not be open to some sections challenging it. He just has to do the right thing, get an effective leader, and take it from there.
Now, we saw that, I think there were 22 names mentioned in the ANC Integrity Committee report that came through. We've seen a couple of withdrawals. We saw former Minister Malisu Kigaba last week. Some were still sworn in as MPs last week, the likes of Kweda Mantashe, as well as, there are still questions on the compromisation of the cabinet and who could get a seat at the table, so to speak, for the ANC. Where does the president start? What does the president do now to try and appease everyone?
The first one is the number of things that he has to take into account. The first one being the youthfulness that has to be injected into the cabinet, the gender balance, the competence, the representation of his strategic alliance partners, all those taken together, and the regional diversity, the racial diversity to some degree to be reflective of our demography. All those things taken together shows that there is very little room for maneuver, especially when on top of everything you want a competent, capable, performing cabinet. That in itself is very, very important, and he will also try to be very careful not to choose people and leave out others on the basis of what could have been his supporters or the slate. If people, even if they had supported Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma or the former president, happen not to have any tainted reputation and they are capable, he'll have to also balance the issue of unity by bringing those on board.
Besides the fact that the opposition is growing by the numbers, we saw the EFF 44 seats now in Parliament, a stronger, well, they're not the official opposition, but they're certainly the most allowed, if I can put it that way, in calling the other side of the aisle to answer. Obviously, a youthful and energetic cabinet will work in the president's favour to be able to rebuff that and take that on.
Without any doubt, even if there was no strong opposition in Parliament, the country is crying out for real impact, real implementation. Unemployment levels are unacceptably high. Skewed economy and inequality is at a disproportionate level. All those things, intergenerational poverty, need a sense of urgency, something like a Marshall Plan, something like a New Deal, because this is a crisis threshold. If you don't deal with it, down the line it could cause social and political disorder.
Well, most ministries, well, it's become very clear anyway that most portfolios, well, there'll be fewer portfolios anyway, ministries will be scrapped and others merged. Where do you think he can, try and squeeze it politically there, in as far as ministries are concerned? What does he do? Which does he collapse? Which deputy ministers does he throw out? What does he do?
I do think that with the deputy ministers, with few exceptions, they'll find a very difficult case to motivate, because theirs is not a role that is predetermined. It is the minister who gives the deputy minister in the main what they should be doing. And if their chemistry is not good, they simply ignore them. And you end up having to pay for the person who is not doing much, but also that some of the deputy ministries have been able to retain people who are effectively out of work, like Magwaza Msibi of the NFP when she was sick. It's already saying the department can continue without that deputy. But of course you do have others, like in the economic cluster, where you have trade and industry, economic development, small business and so forth, which could be clustered in a logical sense. And you have environmental affairs, water and sanitation, housing and so on. Some of those could still be clustered. So there is logic in that. Science and technology and education in other countries is actually one department. So there you do have logical arguments which could be made real by streamlining the cabinet.
Professor Somadoda Fikeni, thank you indeed for joining us. Tough 24 hours ahead for the president who was inaugurated today. Professor Somadoda Fikeni speaking to us from our Pretoria studios about, well, the way ahead politically anyway for the newly elected president of South Africa. We'll take a quick break right here on SABC News Channel. When you return, Palisa Chubisi has got more.